Karuga! Qapla!
I'm going to take this opportunity, however, to suggest that we all hail Karuga. Oh, that's all I'm saying.
Forgive me, Doctor. I'm receiving a number of distress calls. I don't doubt it.
Y'all remember to kick your waitresses. Have a mighty fine night.
You come in peace, surrender or be destroyed. Here to make war, we surrender. False good. Important news are new people.
When the appointed hour arrives, the Marauders will deactivate their cloaking devices and begin transporting Klingon shock troops directly to the landing zone.
Landing zone? Where? Tell me.
Why not? Your feeble weapons will be useless against us. We will kill all your males and take your females to mate with.
All right. Now the Federation's taking over, whether you like it or not. You people, you've been running this planet like a piecework factory. From now on, it's going to be under one roof. You're going to run it like a business. That means you're going to make a profit.
Look at these 3 words written larger than the rest, with a special pride never written before. Or since, tall words proudly saying, "We the people."
Hi, I'm Nicole DeBoer. I played Lieutenant Ezri Dax on DS9, and I welcome you to Bird O' Prey 5 channel. Hail Karoga.
Hello world, it's Bird O' Prey 5, Qapla, and welcome to Deep Space Nine Wednesday for June, what is that, the 16th, 2021. Today we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 5, Episode 14, In Purgatory Shadow, part of an epic 2-part series, a to be continued. Of course, the next episode is not titled In Purgatory Shadow Part 2. It's titled, what's it called? In breathing something. We'll see it. We'll see it in a second. We'll see the title go across the screen in a second. In Burning Light, or in next episode, next week, by Inferno's light. By Inferno's light. Sorry, I had a momentary brain lapse. By Inferno's light is the second episode to this 2-part epic, where we get the reveal of the Dominion fleet. We find out, spoiler, that Dr. Bashir has been a changeling, and all hell breaks loose this episode. This was a crazy episode. One of the best. One of the better episodes. Certainly top 50%. Possibly top 10%. I don't know if I'd put it in the top 10, but certainly top 10%. Deep Space Nine. Now, 47 Yorktown was first in the chat at 11:13 a.m. this morning. My lucky number, 47 Yorktown, puts in Hail Karoga. Hail to you, 47 Yorktown. Josh Street says, Bird of Prey is late. He said he would start in the morning, and he's not here. I did not say DS9 would start in the morning. And he says, how's the hunt for a good heart doctor going? And as I said, nothing yet, Josh Street. Still have a couple more leads. We'll see. And I will say on one lead, I got a call back And I will say I'm cautiously optimistic. More cautiously optimistic than I was yesterday. We'll see. Josh reads his Bird of Prey. Mother went to a great heart doctor in Fort Worth, but it doesn't help you being in New York. No, it doesn't. Thank you, though. I did take a lot of solace in people telling me about family members who had similar things, who were living long lives many, many years later. I appreciate it. Dan says, Bird of Prey on Instagram. It says Star Trek Picard will want to see something new from Star Trek Picard. Stay tuned. Star Trek Picard Day. Want to see some? Yes. Yes. And so today, the Star Trek Picard Season 2 teaser trailer dropped and the artwork dropped. And it looks like you linked to them, Dan, in the chat. Thank you for that. I watched the teaser trailer. It's got Q in it. It's got Picard in it. It's got 7 of 9 in it. It's got some of the characters from the first season in it. It's a time. You can see from the artwork, it's current day Los Angeles. So wouldn't you know it, they time travel to the current day of Los Angeles. And listen, I'm not going to complain because my favorite Star Trek movie, as everybody knows or should know, is Star Trek 4, where they time traveled to what was current day San Francisco. And I think it was the best movie they ever did. And did it save them money on shooting scenes? I'm sure it did to a point. I mean, they still had to make that epic whale tank in the parking lot. And you know, they still had to shoot and film special effects. But yeah, not every set had to be a future set. But for Star Trek Picard, a show that in season 1 was using absurd tricks to save money to begin with, I am sure this season is not because of artistic expression. It is just another clever ploy to save more money, because I don't think the show has a ton of money after they pay Patrick Stewart and Jerry Ryan now to be in it. And Arabic Sonder with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Arabic Sonder. But I'm going to hold Picard off. Maybe I'll do a separate video on the Picard trailer. But let's keep moving on, because we want to get started here in Purgatory's shadow. Josh Reed says, the Bird of Prey story directed by Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, I jokingly said the TVA, the time whatever authority from Loki, is going into Picard, and that the Loki crossover is confirmed, and that it will be directed by Kathleen Kennedy. I have no sources on any of this, so take it with some oregano. Actor says, oh, present day or near future Los Angeles. Man, this will make the seasons so expensive to produce. I cannot wait to see it. Yes, well, what we did see was, of course, his French villa, whatever, winemaking plantation, whatever it's called, is back again. And that's basically present day. There's nothing futuristic in there. So yeah, that's another expensive I'm using like fake air quotes. It's another way to save money. Actors is original Battlestar Galactica, later season vibes. Josh Street says Dear Bop a lot for some reason. Like I don't know what that is. I only know what Dear Bop is on Mondays and Fridays. Josh Street says Bird of Prey, is it true you sold the rights to your life story to Kathleen Kennedy? It depends how much she was offering. Actress is Josh Reed. I hope Bird cashed the check. Last I heard, Disney doesn't pay poop to its writers. Also, after a puppy Skinner, isn't Bird of Prey a little tame? Wow. Pat S. says, Bird of Prey, how much for Kathleen Kennedy to have lunch with you as a fundraiser? I say $1,000, $1,200 if Mama has to cook, and $1,400 if she wants to talk about her love life in the 70s and 80s. I would let Kathleen Kennedy have dinner with me for $1,000. Yeah, that's fine. Although I can't, Mama Prey probably doesn't want to cook, so we'll just order in for the $200. We can order in something pretty decent. Moxley fans is Bird of Prey, Qapla. Bird, how are you and the family? Hope you and the family are doing well today. Not too bad, Moxley. Thank you for asking or telling. And says hello to us all. The last Victorians is Bird of Prey. Hail to thee, good sir. I hope today finds you well. Thank you, the last Victorian. People are talking amongst themselves. Awesome. Actress is the last Victorian. I didn't know a bowler that had no matter the quality of craftsmanship would take so long to make. Did your tailor had to wait for a shipment of fabrics from the East? I don't know what we're talking about. Cinnabon Bunny says, oh no, not this episode. This is a great episode, Cinnabon Bunny. What, do you not like this episode? Actress says the title of this episode sounds fun. Cinnabon was doing a nude bunny stream earlier today. I don't know if his channel still exists, but it was fun while it lasted. Thomas Bott says, hello, Thomas. The last Victorian says, lockdowns happened, and the businesses were closed and short-staffed, but it's handmade to measure. For me, it's custom. It's built like a traditional one as safety hardware. I must have missed something. 47 Yorktown says, hello, young sir, and puts in some tribbles. Qapla, 47 Yorktown. Cinnabon says, this is the only episode Kurtzman ever saw of Star Trek and decided he wanted to change everything. This episode destroyed Trek. Wow. Cinnabon says hi to Thomas. William Jackson says, hail all, Qapla, William Jackson. Dee Myers says, Bird of Prey, Qapla, how are you and the family today? Doing okay, Dee. William says, Dee is in the house. Or in the house, hail. Moxley fan says, we, the people. Dee says, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Dee. Cinnabon says, by the light of Kathleen. Wow. Actress says, I spoiled the episode. The last Victorian says, I think this was one of my first DS9 episodes I was able to catch on TV. Wow, you were late to the game. Executive producer Saul Leibowitz and his many nieces and nephews and grand nieces and nephews says, Qapla, Bird of Prey, you selected a great episode. I hope you are feeling well and look forward to listening as I work. I hope so too. So far so good, and I do enjoy this episode. Agnes says, how evil, Birdo? What? There's nothing evil here. Arabic, it's a fae. Cinnabon says, Picard starts World War III. He needs more land for his vineyard. That's what it's called, a vineyard. John DeMarco can't wait to see Loki and Owen Wilson in season 2 of Picard. Absolutely. You know how Q told Picard he looked old, but completely ignored the fact that Q looked old. Bradley Briggs says, maybe they can use some of this money they are saving to get better stories. I wouldn't put your hopes up. I want to get your hopes up, Bradley. And it's not Picard, it's a robo copy of him. Exactly. Exactly. Cinnabon Bunny says Picard will create a genetically engineered superhuman to run his vineyard named Khan. Nicole says what the show is going. We just started. And Picard is in 2022. It's not this year now. I thought it was this year, but it's definitely 2022. I don't know if it's early 2022 or late 2022. We don't know yet. I don't think they're done filming, so. John Street says, remember to put at Bird of Prey if you want Bird of Prey to read your Bird of Prey comments to stay awake and keep Sleeping O Prey 5 away. Not Ryan does Bird of Prey will not steal his life story. He will find a way to sell our life story. Son of a bitch. That's probably true. And Nicole says Bird O Party 5 Hail KK. Lol. Josh Reed says go over to Bird of Prey screening room to watch along with Bird of Prey only while Bird of Prey is streaming the episode at www.birdofprey5.com/SR. Yes. If you're first time here, you want to watch the episode with us, you can go to the screening room in a different browser tab or on a different device and watch the episode, my copy, as we watch it, only if you're watching live. If you're catching this after the fact, then you'll need your own copy. DS9 is currently available on DVD, on Amazon Prime Video, on Netflix, on Hulu, and of course Paramount Plus. Vincent Gallipo, Qapla. The last Victorians is Bird of Prey. We are talking about my bowler hat. I've been waiting for it for over a year. Congrats. Congrats. Nicole's just kidding. He knows Bird would never say that. I would say a lot of things for the right amount of money. Arabic says, I wonder if Q makes him human again. Does it matter? Does it matter? I'm sure Q could do it. But who's to say Q would lie about it or not? There'd be no way to know. Nicole says, oh, well, he got to do it all over again. Actor says 2022, how risky of them to try to predict next year. Ballsy move. Indeed. And Vincent Gallibo says, anyone excited about Star Trek Discovery Season 4? I'm not sure. I'm certainly not excited other than to the fact that I'll get to make some reviews on it and probably trash it, but I will do it with an open mind. So if by chance it turns out good somehow, I will be happy to say, oh, shit, fourth time was the charm. And Rock Solid says Bird of Prey, hashtag Bird is late, hashtag late O Prey 5, hashtag down with Karoga, hashtag hail on Karoga, hashtag Bunnyland, hail Bunnyland, hashtag Dear Bob, hashtag free mop, hashtag. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's head on over to the Bird O Prey 5 screening room, and I will do my little countdown, and we get started. And of course, if you can't watch in the screening room and you don't have your own copy, then if you just watch here, there'll be no audio, but you will get a screenshot about every 10 seconds. And you can keep up with where we are in the episode. Okay. Oh. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, load up. I was a little slow on the load. In memory of Derek Garth. So I looked up who Derek Garth was. He was someone who worked with the lights and the cameras and stuff. And he unfortunately passed away on his way to work. and he worked on the DS9 set. So let's all remember Derek Garth, because this episode is dedicated to him. So we start with Kira and Odo in Odo's quarters. Odo has just become a shapeshifter again, so he's got all his shape-shifting furniture back. Kira's helping him set it up, and now Kira's looking at all the pads, and she sees Odo's reading all these romance books. Finding and Winning Your Perfect Mate. And he's like, he thought he was going to be a solid. There were certain things. And Kira says, you don't have to explain. Odo says, I only read the first 3 chapters. Kira said, you should finish it. Odo says, why waste my time? Romance is for solids. Kira says, well, you're solid 18 hours a day. She's like, I'm sure there's plenty of women on this station who'd be interested if you gave them a chance. Odo says he'd be satisfied just getting the room in order. In other words, you'd be good for my friend, but not for me, says Kira. Jedi Bill says, hello, bird of prey, Qapla, brother warrior. Hail, Karoga. Hail, Karoga. So Kira and Odo get called to ops. One of their listening posts in the Gamma Quadrant picked something up. A Cardassian military code. But the computer can't recognize it. She didn't think anyone was any Cardassians in the Gamma Quadrant. But Kira's trying some courier codes. Most Cardassian codes use the recursive algorithm. This doesn't. Bashir Intelligence has experience breaking the codes. They sent it to them, but they haven't heard back. Odo says it might take some time. He says if somebody sending coded Cardassian messages from the Gamma Quadrant, he wants to know now. So Odo says we do have an expert living on the station. He's like, you're right. And he says, yeah, Dax, get me Mr. Garak. And here's Garak, just went to sit down with Zial and Dr. Bashir. He said it was a disappointment. They were hoping the message they picked up would contain key details, but it was a 5-year-old planetary survey report. And Bashir looks like confused. He says, I thought you would have been disappointed too. It could have been a survivor from the Cardassian fleet. And Garak said he long gave up on there being any survivors. He says there comes a place when you must accept reality. Those people are gone. They're never coming back. Anyway, he says he's got to go. He's got dresses to make and pants to hem. It's a full life. And tell Captain Sisko he'd be more than happy to code any Cardassian laundry lists that come across his desk in a very smug manner. And Zial says his father would be furious if for her to say it, but there's something about Garak she finds fascinating. Now we sign Garak with a satch across his self, sneaking onto an airlock or through an airlock, and it's to a runabout, because of course it is. And in the pilot seat is Dr. Bashir with a phaser. And Garak looks at him and just smiles. Cue opening credits. I did watch the teaser trailer. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. Do 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 do. 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 Do 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 do. Dun 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 dun. Dun da da da. Do 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 do. Dun da 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 da. Do 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 do. Do do do. Do 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 do. Dun dun da da da. Dun da dun da da. Dun 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 da 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 da. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Dun dun da da. Dun da da da. Dun dun da da dun da. Dun dun da da. Do. Ba-da. What was that noise? Is someone torturing Sassy? No. And Garak says he's got to stop underestimating Dr. Bashir. He said, how do you know? And he says, what, about the contents of the message or about giving up? He says, Zial's right. You're not the giving up type. Garak says, you've come a long way from the naive young man he met 5 years ago. You've become distrustful and suspicious. It suits him. He says, I had a good teacher. And he says, what'd the message really say, Garak? It was a call from hell. From Enabran Tain. Tain. But you've seen his ship destroyed. He says, yes, but Tain was head of the Obsidian Order. For 20 years, if he could survive that, he could survive anything. Garak has to find him. He owes it to him. Says you don't owe him anything. He had him exiled from Cardassia. Garak says, yes, but aside from that, they were very close. He was his mentor, and he's not turning his back. He's like, it'll make you feeling better. You can come with me. All you need is an excuse why we need the runabout. So Bashir says, let me get this straight. You want me to lie to my commanding officer, violate Starfleet regulations, and go with you on a mission into the Gamma Quadrant, which will probably get us both killed. Garak says he's ready when he is. So then let's go. And he says to Captain Sisko's office as he points the phaser. The last Victorian says, I'd have Garak as my tailor. I just have to make sure he uses tweet and not that awful wallpaper all civilians wear in Star Trek. Tweed. So Sisko wants to know how he knows he's sure it's Tain. He says he knows it's Tain. He's the only one who knows it. It was only one word, alive, repeated over and over so he can triangulate the source. He says Tain might not be all that's left. There could be others. Troops from the Cardassian Romulan fleet. Survivors from the Dominion attack on New Bajor, and even Federation crew members from ships that disappeared. He's like, this is a mission of mercy. You can't ignore it. Sisko's not totally convinced it's genuine. But there's only one way to find out. Bashir says you can't let him go. He's too dangerous. And Garak says, I can take care of myself. And he says, I think Sisko says you're not going alone. He says, I think Dr. Bashir just volunteered. Sisko said, no, not Bashir. He's busy, but somebody else. So then it turns out Worf volunteered to go. Worf is talking to Dax. Dax is complaining that she had to hear it from Commander Sisko. And Worf said that a Klingon warrior doesn't have to explain why he seeks battle. And Dax like, oh, because you're afraid I was going to make a scene. And he said, then you came to wish me a good death in battle. And she's like, no. She came for these. And she opens a drawer, and it's his Klingon operas, his most prized possession. She's like, well, you're not going to be using them for the next few days. Somebody might as well enjoy them. And Worf is mad now. She looks down, sad. She's like, what? There's something wrong. And Worf says reluctantly, you have a tendency to misplace things. And Dax is like, oh, you're afraid that I might lose your precious operas. And he says, yes, he is afraid. And Dax says, it's a distinct possibility. If I was you, I'd hurry back. If you want to keep your collection intact. And then they kiss. Carla Albanese says, thanks for letting us chill out on the couch for DS9 Wednesday. And then she says, have a glorious death. Or don't. It's up to you. As always, we'll clean up on the way out so Mamo Pray doesn't have to. Thank you, Carlo. Good morning, LDG. It's a little late for morning, but good morning. So now Garak is telling Zial he's going to the Gamma Quadrant. She's pissed he's going. She's like, what if something happens to you? He says, you can find someone else to eat your meals with, but don't worry, he intends to return. It's not that, she says. He says, I know, I'm the only other Cardassian on the station. She says, it's not that either. You know it. You're intelligent, you're cultured, you're kind. She says, my dear, you're young. So I realize you're a poor judge of character. And she says, why do you always make fun of my feelings for you? He says, maybe I find them a bit misguided. Says, well, if that's what you think, why do you spend so much time with you? He says, because I'm exiled and alone and a long way from home. And when he's with you, it doesn't feel so bad. She says, I'm glad I could help. So is he. He says, Zial, no matter what happens, no matter how bleak things may look, he promises he will come back. You have my word. And if there's one thing you can trust, it's Garak's word. Oh shit, there's Gul Dukat. He's Ted, take your hands off her. And touch my daughter again and I'll kill you. And Garak says, kill me, do it. She'll never forgive you. And Quark comes over to try and break it up. And says, gentlemen, don't act like a pair of Klingons. And Quark says, then excuse me while I call security. I'm sure Odo will get a thrill out of locking you up in this holding cell. And Zial says, Father, please. And Garak says, public opinion is running against you. As Dukat is forced to let him go. And Garak says, I think that helped my back. He says, let's go, Garak. He'll buy him a drink. And they touch hands again. And Garak says, you do have a lovely daughter. She must take after her mother. And Zial tells her that he's wrong about Garak. He's a good man. And Dukat says, she has no idea how much it pains me to hear that, but it is good to see her. Says, yes, what are you doing on the station? She had a little skirmish. He had a little skirmish with a Klingon. His ship was damaged, so he came here for repairs and to spend some time with Zial. And you can see they have a lot to talk about. Josh Street says, it's funny, she went from a 16-year-old girl to a 20-year-old woman in just 2 years. Well, it's funny. Some planets rotate around the sun faster than others. Worf says at the first sign of betrayal, he will kill Garak, but he promises to return the body intact. And Sisko says, I hope that's a joke. And he says, we'll see. So Worf and Garak are in the shuttlecraft, not a shuttlecraft, a runabout in the Gamma Quadrant. And Worf says to Garak, so you want me to sponsor your application to Starfleet Academy? And Worf says, that's a bad idea. Like, why? She says, Starfleet Academy is an accepting place. There's Ferengi, you were, Klingon. Everybody can be there. He's like, it's not only that you're a Cardassian, you're a spy. He's like, I need to join Starfleet. He wants to make up for all the damage he's done. He needs to prove to himself that he can be better than he is. But he needs Worf's support to start him on his journey to redemption. Worf says, if that is how you feel, I will consider your request. And Garak says, that's all I ask. He says, frankly, he thinks he can be quite an asset to Starfleet. With his extensive experience, he could skip the low ranks entirely and start as a commander. Says, put that in your letter. Tell him you'd be honored to serve under me. So now Worf realizes it was all a joke. And he says, why all this deception? And Garak says, because lying is a skill like any other. And if you want to maintain it like excellence, you have to practice constantly. And Worf says, practice on someone else. And Garak says, Worf, you're no fun at all. And Worf says, good. And Dukat comes over to talk to Kira, and it says, we have to talk. She's like, I left your daughter I left my daughter in your care. You said that you would keep her safe. And he's like, if this is about taking her to services, he doesn't care about services in Bajor. It's Garak. He says that Sial's in love with Garak. And Kira laughs it off. He's like, I don't think it's love. She was lonely. He's the only other Cardassian living on the station. Dukat says the man is a heartless, cold-blooded killer. She's like, what? Like I said, he's Cardassian. It's like the grown woman making her own decisions. She's not fond of Garak, but it's her prerogative. Dukat says, you did this on purpose. He's like, you did it on purpose. He says, you allowed his daughter to associate with somebody who he knew was his enemy. Stood by while he whispered poison in her ear. And she said, Dukat, let's get one thing straight. I didn't bring Zial to the station for you. I did it for her. Because I knew it'd be better for her than being a soldier fighting in a private little war with the Klingons. Said, save your excuses, Major. You've betrayed me. And I promise I won't forget it. She says, if that's a threat, she's not impressed. He says, there was a time when Bajorans took Cardassian threats very seriously. Not anymore, she says. He says, good day. Good day. Good day, Major. So, Garak is saying, why can't the runabout replicators provide a more varied menu? And said they just dropped out of warp. Worf says they can go no further. The source of the coded signal is deep in Dominion space. He has strict orders to avoid unnecessary risk. Says we must turn back. Garak says, well, I don't want to take an unnecessary risk. But our sensors show no sensors of Jem'Hadar warships. He says, true, but likelihood of contact will increase. His orders were very clear. Garak says, but we've come all this way to turn around without an answer. Seems so un-Klingon. Worf says, but he's also a Starfleet officer. Garak says, why don't we go through the nebula? We can avoid detection. And he said, the shields would be useless in the nebula, and so would sensors, says Garak. It's not just Tain we're looking for. The Pyramid, the Proxima, the Sarajevo. Starfleet ships have been lost for years. Crews, brave warriors of the Federation, unaccounted for. We owe it to them to do everything we can to find them and bring them home. It's the honorable thing to do. Worf says, you use the word, but you have no idea what it means. He's like, maybe not, but you do. Okay, Worf is setting course for the nebula. Hey, it's the Mintari Nebula. It's had a duplicate in the Gamma Quadrant. Steady as she goes. Uh-oh. They're coming right at us. There's 100 Jem'Hadar ships right in front of them. Garak says, maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all. Worf is not happy. Do they even try to turn around? No. No, they're... Wow, they are under attack. He says, you still haven't lost them. There's 4 behind them, 2 ahead. Worf says we have to warn the station. There's only one reason to hide a fleet this big so close to a wormhole. He says the message is transmitting, but he's not sure if it's getting through the interference. And they got to get through the nebula. They're in a tractor beam. And we're trying to repolarize the hell. And the Jem'Hadar beam in, and Garak says, oh, we're glad to see you. Could one of you point us in the direction of the wormhole? And the Jem'Hadar soldier just hits him in the face with a rifle. So Kira is saying that the baby already knows who she is, the O'Brien's baby. And Kira says, he spent 7 months in my body. Dax says he's a month old. He doesn't even recognize his fingers. And Dax says it's probably just gas. Dax to Sisko, priority 1 message from the Gamma Quadrant. He's got a message from Worf, but it's badly garbled. O'Brien's clearing it up. Jem'Hadar coordinates. And you can't make them out. Build up. Imminent. It ends with imminent. And they lost contact with 2 of their listening posts. It's the Dominion, they're coming. He says, notify Starfleet Command. Put the station on red alert and let everybody know this is not a drill. She gives Kira orders to take the Defiant into the Gamma Quadrant, locate Mr. Worf, and find out what's going on. And she says, if it is a Dominion fleet, he says, then get back right away and God help us all. Okay, so they just beamed down into a internment camp. It says, Cardassians are all alike. You talk too much. For some reason, Worf goes after the Jem'Hadar that touches Garak. And he says, I give the orders here. Release me or die. And Garak says, do what he says, Worf. Again, why is Worf taking orders? This is Internment Camp 371. You're here because your enemy is the Dominion. There is no release. No escape. Except death. It seems like the Dominion wouldn't even have internment camps. But it's convenient they do. There's an increase in neutrino levels. The wormhole's opening. It's the Defiant. Hello, Captain Trek. She found trouble. It's Camp Karoga, says Cinnabon. Zial asks if Ducat's been waiting long. Said not long. She said, you should have come into the shrine. He said, God, forget about dinner. Get your things. We're leaving for... the ship leaving for Cardassia in the morning. He wants her on it. Like, you're sending me to Cardassia. He just learned there's a Dominion fleet headed here. This plate's not safe anymore. Sorry, taking a pill. And he says, come on, I don't want any harm to come to you. Get ready to leave. Oh, Garak and Worf walking around. He said they have no weapons. Their identities have been confirmed. They're free to move about the compound. But remember, beyond the atmospheric dome, there's nothing but airless vacuum and barren rock. Leave the dome even for an instant and you die. And then he says, I've been waiting for another Klingon. Which is like, oh, that's interesting. And we got a Klingon fighting a Jem'Hadar soldier, and Worf instantly recognizes General Martok. The real General Martok, not that changeling who says, Hail Kurdistan. They tell Worf, for him it's just beginning. Martok's fight is over. Martok says he's been there 2 years. And Garak says, aren't you Klingons supposed to kill yourselves if you're taken prisoner? Not when there's hope of escape. He says, if you're Worf, then you must be Garak. He said you'd come. I don't know how Tain would have known Garak, Worf would have come with Garak. But, so there's Tain. It's his heart. And he's Garak says, as many people says he doesn't have one. Tain was convinced he'd come. He knew he had no choice, says Garak. Tain, I'm here. My message, it got through. He says, yes, it did, says Garak. I did see the Picard trailer, Daniel. I spoke about it at the beginning of the stream. He says, you allowed yourselves to be taken prisoner. He taught him better than that. Being on that station has dulled your wits. He said, that's all you have to say after I come all this way. It's all you have to say to me. So what do you want me to say? I want you to say thank you, Elam. Your loyalty is most gratifying. I knew I could count on you. It says, but I couldn't count on you. All you've done is to doom us both. That's true. Arabic Santa says, yes, that's where Martok was, indeed. Captain Sisko invited Gul Dukat, and they got Kira up. Everybody is talking. The Dominion picked a perfect time to invade. Cardassian fleet is in shambles. Romulans, they're not much better off. Klingon war, Starfleet is spread pretty thin. And Kira says there's at least 50 ships headed this way. And Dax wants to know how quickly can we get reinforcements? Not soon enough, 2 days. Says, what help can you expect from Cardassia? And Dukat says, my ship and my crew are at your disposal. Bashir says, one ship, things are looking brighter. Says, the only hope is to prevent the ship from entering the Alpha Quadrant. So Kira says, you're going to destroy the wormhole? He says, it's always been an option. Well, the professor at the Trill Science Ministry came up a way to seal the wormhole without harming the prophets. And she says, but Bashir will be cut off from the prophets. He says, history has shown that the prophets always find a way to communicate when they want to. And she says, but, and he says, it's either that or Bashir becomes the first target. And she says, what about Worf? Odo says, when they close the wormhole, they'll be trapped. And Dukat says, casualties of war. Sisko says, they have 36 hours to find their way home. Let's hope they can make it. Before this was converted to a prison, they used to mine something there. There was no dome. Each thing has its own life support system. The crawl space behind the panels. Tain spent hours in there working every day for months on end. Cardassians. Clever people, says Martok. Especially that one. But in just a few days, he'll be dead. Worf says, it's up to us to be clever. Now, I don't know if that's a Vulcan or a Romulan. I think it's a Vulcan. They're releasing him from isolation. And oh my God, it's Dr. Bashir. Still in the old uniform. The old pre-first contact uniform. And he sees Worf and Garak and he's confused. Be negative, in case you're wondering. He says, so we all are who we seem to be. If the blood screenings can be trusted. Everybody's been tested but the brain, no blood. And he was taken here over a month ago. He was doing a burn treatment. That he was taken from his bed. And Martok was hunting saber bear at Kang's summit. And he saw the changeling that replaced him has caused the death of countless Klingons. Grave dishonor. Worf says he's not to blame. And Bashir says, I can only imagine what my replacement's doing. And we gotta escape and warn Captain Sisko before he does whatever he's doing. And then we see the changeling Bashir on DS9. And he brought, Julian brought Sandwiches. He brought sandwiches for Dax and O'Brien. He says, you're a gentleman and a scholar. And if you need anything at all, let him know. I wonder if he poisoned the sandwiches. Professor Brainy Specs, Qapla, Professor. Zial finally made it. The transport, he's like, where's your baggage? He's like, never mind. I'll have it sent. And Zial says, this won't be necessary. I'm not leaving. He says, Zial, I know we haven't spent much time together, but you know me well enough to realize that when I give an order, I expect it to be obeyed. She's like, I'm not one of your soldiers. He's like, I'm your daughter. She's half Bajoran. She doesn't belong on Cardassia. She'll never be accepted. He says, Zial, you have to trust me. Things are going to change on Cardassia. He doesn't have time to explain. We're leaving. Zial says, I can't go. He says, it's him, isn't it? That despicable tailor. Garak promised that he would come back. He says, listen to him. He's never coming back. He's probably dead already. And if he isn't, the Federation is going to seal the wormhole. Garak will be trapped on the other side. Zial says he made a promise. And so did she. She said she'd wait for him. And she will. Is a promise to an enemy of your family more important than obeying your father? That's not a hypothetical question. So be it. Stay here if that's what you want, he says. Stay here and be damned. That's not a nice thing to say to your daughter. And Garak says, we never should have come here. We should have let that monster die. And Bashir says, I'm glad you came. Misery loves company. He says, all his life he did nothing but try to please him. Let him mold him into a mirror image. How do you repay him? With exile. But here in the end, I thought maybe, just maybe, he could forgive me. Bashir says from what he's seen over the past month, he doesn't come across as the forgiving type. And he says, sentiment is the greatest weakness of all. Let that be the lesson I teach you. Martok is in like full Klingon gear. If you want to speak to Tain, do it now before it's too late. So Martok knows when somebody's going to die, apparently. I do not think Zial is hot. Too much makeup. It's Elam. Everything's gone dark. You can't see him. Are you alone? He says he is, although Bashir's there. And the Breen is probably slain by. He says, yeah, there's no one else but you and I. He says, all these Cardassian names, they can't be trusted. They must be dealt with. And Garak says, they've already taken care of them. And Gulver Lim, were you able to contact him? Years ago, says Garak. The Romulan ambassador. That son of a bitch, the same Romulan ambassador from Star Trek 6. Says he's dealt with. All your enemies have been dealt with. And he says, good. A man should not let his enemies outlive him. He says, then you can die happy, unless you consider me your enemy. And he says, Elam, promise me one thing. Don't die here. Escape. and live. He says, let me guess, like when I make the Dominion pay for what they've done. He says, you wouldn't deny an old man his revenge. He says, he'll do as you ask, on one condition. You don't ask as a mentor or a superior officer, but as a father asking his son. He's dun. He says, but you're not my son. And he says, Father, for once in your life, tell the truth. And Professor Brainy Specs has renewed his membership now for a 4th month in a row. Qapla, Professor Brainy Specs. The mental illness continues. And John Araki with the $1 super chat. Thank you, John Araki. So, Garak says, for this moment, let me be your son. He says, Elam, remember that day in the country. You must have been all of 5. He says, how can I forget it? It was the only day. He was on the back of that riding hound. He must have fallen off a dozen times. Sassy, he was on the back of Sassy. But he never gave up. He remembers limping home. He held his hand. He was very proud of him. Ah, that day. Yes, John Araki got eyebrowed axe. And that's it. That's the end of the line for Tain. Arabic says, holy poop, he's the father. Remember Father's Day is this Sunday. That's a good yes. A good thing to remember. Garak says he doesn't know about him, but his business here is done. And Worf says, I suggest we find a way out. And Martok agrees. Sisko says, Captain's log. A full-scale Dominion invasion seems imminent. He's got full faith in his officers. The last listening post in the Gamma Quadrant went dead. Right on the other side of the wormhole. Dax says, Worf. Bashir says, is a Klingon warrior. He'll understand. If they're going to do it, they've got to be now. Here goes nothing. They're going to collapse the wormhole. Entered graviton emitters. Engaged. They're pointing right at the wormhole. Oh shit. Circuits are blasting. The graviton emitters are going offline. Oh. It stopped. Someone sabotaged the emitter array. And the wormhole just opened. And all the ships have come through. Battle stations. To be continued. Holy F. To be continued. Oh, well. Josh Street says, how many episodes until Bashir, I presume? That is not next week, but the week after. Next week is the second half of this episode by Inferno's light. And then the next week is Dr. Bashir, I presume. Rock Solid says, play the second episode now. Oh, Rock Solid, I wish I could. I wish I could. I didn't forget this was a two-parter, but this was a two-parter that was aired on different days. Emissary and Way of the Warrior were aired on the same night. They were two-parters that were aired as one. This was a two-parter that was aired on 2 different days. That's why we're going to just end it here. And next week we'll do the second episode, because that's the way it was done when it originally aired. Rock Solid says, you can. I give you permission. I wish I could, Rock Solid. I am just not up to doing another episode right now. Yeah. 3. No, it wasn't. It was just a 1 week apart. It was 1 week apart. This one aired February 10th, and next week was February 17th, 1997. So it was only 1 week between these 2 episodes. And that'll be. It'll be 1 week between the episodes for us. Don't worry, the next episode starts off with the previously on, so we can remember all the big things that happened. The Last Victorian says, come on. You know you want to. You just can't let us down like this. I do want to. John Strait says, why not, Bird? Got your New Jersey powered wheelchair. Why can't you give us another episode? Cause I bet Bird of Prey is going to see the episode as soon as he ends the stream. The last of doing Bird of Prey, I mean, I know how the bridge crew empties their full onesies. I mean, you don't think you can shake much out of those legs, do you? Carlo is working. Rock Solid says, hashtag we want the show. How many people are still here? 27 people? Okay. Put a 1 in the chat if you want me to put on the next episode now. Put a 2 in the chat if you want me to wait till next week. And only vote once. If you vote more than once, I'm going to take it out. So 1, if you want me to start the next episode right now. 2, if you say no, we'll play it next week. I see a 2 from Dr. Scotty. A 2 from Captain Trek. Really, Captain? Interesting. A 2 from Arabic Sonder. A 2 from 47 Yorktown. A 2 from Saul Leibowitz. Bird needs rest and chicken wings. Bradley wants to do what's best for me. I have to know if they shoot O'Brien. Captain already has a stream set up. Okay. Captain Trek already has a stream set up. I do need to get some rest. We will do this next week. We'll be all cool for next week. And thank you all for coming. Guys, Captain Trek, why don't you put in the link to your stream, please, so people have it. And what's that name? Hipcomer says Uno and Elms. Qapla Hipcomer. The last Victorian Bird Prey, whatever works for you, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Space Kissinger says, but boo, it's okay. No. No booing. No booing. I teased you. Let me see if I find Captain Trek stream. There's Captain Trek stream. So guys, please head over to Captain Trek stream. I'm going to go ahead and end this one. His starts in 3 minutes. You can head on over to the Brew Crew, and we'll continue this next week. Thank you all. I know I didn't count the ones, but it's executive decision. Sorry, executive decision. Qapla all. Thank you all so much. Bird out. But wait, there's more. The video might be over, but there's more fun to be had. First, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have clicked that bell icon to get notifications of new videos in your YouTube feed. Share this video on social media to help this channel fight the algorithm that favors big media. Also check out www.birdoprey5.com for links to my other channels, various social media accounts, merch store, Dear Bop, affiliate links, and all your Birdo Prey 5 needs. At the main Birdo Prey 5 YouTube channel, you can find all sorts of live streams and unlisted videos, YouTube membership options, and a community section with polls and updates on the channel. On the secondary channel, Birdo Prey 5X, you can find overflow content that doesn't always make the main channel. Subscribe to both channels, please. Thanks for watching. Remember, I stream almost every day. This is Birdo Prey 5 saying goodbye, world! Until next time. P.S. Hail Sassy, hail Charlie, and of course, hail Karoga.